how about discussing this massive business line of credit from a Bluevine? We're talking $250,000. Isn't that fantastic? $250,000. In some cases, you might get all the way to $5 million. Amazing. Don't go anywhere. You're going to love today's conversation. I guarantee it. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Studio Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you had to ask me. If you are doing as fantastic as I am, go grab a cup of coffee, or tea, or vodka, and let's roll. In today's convo, I want to speak to you about a massive business line of credit from Bluevine. And we're talking about a range of $250,000 all the way to $5 million, okay? But before I get into the nitty-gritty, please understand that we have no affiliation, no relationship with Bluevine, and this show is purely educational and purely instructional, okay? Now let's talk about the loan facts. So here you have an unsecured line of credit, and you also have an invoice factoring arrangement, and the amount is up to $250,000 or up to $5 million, depending on the loan or the financing arrangement you want. And the APR can go as low as 4.8%. There are no fees. You have a revolving term. This is a business line of credit, okay? And time to funding, 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes. That's what Bluevine says on their website. But it's more like 24 hours, okay? And there are no extra conditions. So the cool thing here is that with a line of credit from a Bluevine or from any other player for that matter, you only pay for what you use, okay? So there are no prepayment penalties, okay? So the funds are available on demand. And this is kind of good if you really think about it, because then you can enjoy a peace of mind, right? You have the money available to you for any business expense, and you only pay for what you use. You access a revolving line, and you finance that grows. You kind of have access to financing that grows with your company. So that's for the line of credit. And about the invoice factoring, this is kind of cool too, because Bluevine allows you to turn unpaid invoices into cash, and the credit lines can go all the way to $5 million. And when we speak about invoice factoring, we are speaking about a collateralized credit arrangement, because the accounts receivable, those invoices, constitute the collateral that underlies the loan, okay? And you can fund only the invoices you want, and there are no long-term contracts here. And here, the rates can go as low as 0.25% per week. You have approval as fast as 24 hours, and you can access more capital with full flexibility, okay? And the cool thing about invoice factoring is that you can actually free up your cash, all right? Because unlike a traditional loan, there are no recurring payments when your customer pays by the invoice due date. Let me quickly talk about this lender at a glance. Let's talk about Bluevine. But before we actually talk about Bluevine, folks, I want to remind you that I'm speaking to you about a massive business line of credit from Bluevine up to $250,000. And if you consider the invoice factoring arrangements, you are talking about a line of credit that can go all the way to $5 million, okay? And all kinds of credit are welcome. Bad credit, fair credit, good credit. This is essentially an EIN only business lending arrangement. So the lender here. So when we talk about Bluevine, what is Bluevine? Bluevine is really an online lending service. Simple as that, okay? So they actually were funded about 10 years ago. And what they do is they're very good because they allow you to actually get the funds you need real fast. And they offer invoice factoring and lines of credit. Back in the days, they used to also offer some loans, but the thing here is that there has been some strategic shifts around how they want to conduct their business. So now they're focusing only on business line of credit and invoice factoring. And you have to understand that when it comes to Bluevine, the fees can get a little expensive, because if you remember earlier, I was talking to you about the fact that they charge as low as 0.25% per week for the invoice factoring thing. Think about it. How many weeks do you have in a year? 52, right? And you want to multiply 0.25 times 52. And you can see what I'm talking about. Now, you might say, oh, it's nothing. Yeah, it's nothing because you're not thinking about compounding. When you add the compounding effect, it can be very huge. What are the pros and cons here? Pros: financing is available for startups and entrepreneurs. Low credit score qualifications. The application is fast and easy, and funds can get dispersed real quickly. This is really good. What about the drawbacks? So, financing is not available in some states, and rates can be very expensive. I just talked about that. Repayments are required quickly, and customer service is inconsistent. And so, after evaluating this lender, Bluevine, on tens of criteria, including the loan variety, the loan amount generosity, the cost, the reputation, the customer service, we assigned the company a score of 9.5 over 10. And if you go online, you can see that accolades are usually positive, reviews are usually positive about Bluevine. For example, if you see on Trustpilot, they have received an aggregate score of 4.5 stars out of 5 from 6,631 reviews. So this is pretty good. This is excellent. Now let's talk about eligibility criteria. How do you qualify for this massive business line of credit from Bluevine? Maximum line of credit, $250,000. Maximum amount for the invoice factoring deal, $5 million. How do you qualify for that? First of all, here are the borrower requirements. So Bluevine's borrower requirements vary by products, okay? So for example, when we're talking about the line of credit, so the lines of credit are offered with repayment periods of either 6 or 12 months. Okay, this is the lack of flexibility I was referring to earlier. So it's either 6 months or 12 months. To qualify, your business must meet the following minimum requirements. So time in business, 6 months. Credit score, 600. In some cases, they can go as low as 525 if you have the right application. And your business revenue, $120,000 per year. In other words, $10,000 per month. Okay. And Bluevine's lines of credit are not currently available in North Dakota and South Dakota. And the product is available to most industries except for financial services and nonprofits. Okay. So that's for the lines of credit. And then you have the invoice factoring. So invoice factoring is available for B2B, business to business, B2G, business to government businesses. So they only focus right now on B2B and B2G. So if you want to qualify for invoice factoring, you really want your customers to be other businesses or government agencies. You can see right from the get-go that Bluevine is trying to stay away from the B2C businesses because it's less risky, right? So this is something you need to think about. But to qualify, you must have eligible unpaid invoices as well as meet the requirements below. So time in business, 3 months. Your credit score, 530. In some cases, they can go all the way to 475. Your business revenue must be at least $10,000 per month. Okay. Additionally, you must be US based, and invoice factoring is available in all 50 states. And that makes sense because invoice factoring is not really a lending practice. It is not regulated. This is more like a business transaction, whereas a line of credit or a loan or a credit card, those things are considered lending from a regulatory perspective. So they are regulated. They are overseen. Okay. Something you need to think about. So one thing I want to say here is that Bluevine can go as low as 530 or 525 for the business line of credit under some circumstances. I want to talk to you now about use of loan proceeds. So folks, in this show, I am talking to you about a massive business line of credit from Bluevine. And I'm also talking to you about an invoice factoring arrangement. So for the business line of credit, $250,000, that's the maximum limit. And for the invoice factoring arrangement, $5 million, that's the cap. Okay. So the use of loan proceeds, what can you use the money for? The thing here is that it is really up to you. Because when we talk about business line of credit, there is actually no restrictions on how you can use the money. Usually, most businesses, and I'm pretty sure this applies to you also, use the funds to take care of everyday thing, take care of operational needs. Okay, and so everything from purchasing inventory. Let's say you are there is a gap, there is a timing gap between when you get your cash from your customers and when you have to pay vendors, and you see an opportunity where you need to purchase inventory to be able to sell, then you can use a line of credit to sort of replenish or to sort of take care of that mismatch, temporary mismatch in terms of liquidity. Okay, you can use a Bluevine line of credit to repair business critical equipment. Let's say you own a garage, right? And there is some problem in the building, some structural problem in the buildings. You can't just wait for days. No, you got to take care of it ASAP, right? And this is where you actually can pay. You can use the business line of credit to pay the professionals to come and do the work. You could also use a line of credit from Bluevine to finance a marketing campaign. For example, we all know that a lot of businesses rather, they earn a lot of cash during the holiday season, right? Let's say it is September, October, and you just realize that your cash position is very lethargic. It's very sclerotic, right? Things are not moving in the right direction. You're not getting any cash in your coffers. Then you can tap into your business line of credit to actually take care of the financing, take care of the marketing rather, take care of the ad campaign. Let's say you want to launch a Facebook ad campaign, or you want to launch some commercials. You want to place some commercials in the local media. You need cash for that. You can use the Bluevine line of credit for that. You can also use the Bluevine line of credit to bridge a seasonal cash flow gap. That's what I was talking to you earlier when I said there was a gap between when you get money from your customers and when you have to pay your vendors. Okay, so overall, just keep in mind that Bluevine's lines of credit are issued by Utah-based Celtic Bank. Okay, because Bluevine at the end of the day is not a financial institution, as you know that, right? They are a fintech company, a financial technology company. So they have no license from the Federal Reserve or other regulatory authority to conduct business as a lender. They go through a real lender. They provide the platform, they provide the technology, but they're not a lender. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another section of the Awesome Street Kiwi Show. I'm still having a conversation with you about Bluevine, and we're talking about a massive Bluevine line of credit. Maximum loan amount, not a loan, maximum line amount is $250,000. The maximum amount for invoice factoring is $500,000. Okay, and those are EIN only. All kinds of credit profiles are welcome. And if you need, let's talk about the evidence needed. One thing I want to say here is that you want to call Bluevine if you need information before or during the application. We recommend that you do this before. That way, because they don't put all information on their website in terms of the evidence needed. And we reached out to them during our preparation for this show, but you never know. Things change all the time. They're a lender. I mean, they work with lenders. They have to manage risk on a daily basis. So you want to call them so you have the latest piece of information before applying. Okay? And so what you need to get started, you need to get 600 FICO, 530 in some cases, right? So you want to talk to a loan specialist to kind of clarify that. You want to be in business for at least 6 months, and you want to have $10,000 in monthly revenue. And you have to be able to prove that. Okay, and you can prove the 6 months in business through something called your articles of incorporation or articles of organization if you're an LLC. Remember that you have to be a business. Bluevine does not finance sole proprietorship. You got to have a real business. You have to incorporate. And this is kind of good for you too, because then you can shield yourself from legal issues. Okay, so you got to be an LLC, LP, an S corp or C corp. So you can prove that. You can prove the operational history. You can even prove how long you have been in business through your financial statements, for example, right? And the financial statements can also show your the $10,000 that you make on a monthly basis. You can show that, and you also need to have basic details about you and your business. You need to have a bank connection or year-to-date bank statements. So Bluevine, and I will explain this later on. Bluevine wants to actually connect their system to your bank account, so they can tell what's really going on behind closed doors. So, and you can't, just in case you are tempted to lie to them, at least they have that. That's why they don't want to rely on. Let me just say it this way: they are a financial technology company, fintech company. So they have come up with a great strategy to make sure that no borrower is tempted to to actually bend the truth, really, when it comes to the information on their application. All right, folks. Number 5, let's talk about how to apply. How do you apply? And of course, we are talking about what? We're talking about a large, massive business line of credit from Bluevine. Maximum amount $250,000. And we are also talking about a large invoice factoring arrangement, and maximum amount here is $5 million. Okay. Now let's talk about how to apply. Now you can apply via email, fax, a web form, or over the phone. But in today's conversation, I'm going to show you how to apply online. So when you click on the Bluevine, when you are on Bluevine and you click Get Started, you have two options. They say, how can we help you? Business line of credit or business check-in. The business check-in thing, you don't have to click on it. Right now, it's just a way for Bluevine to collect emails from potential customers, and also to gauge the feasibility of their business check-in services. So you don't have that. This is just a market employee for them to get data. And so if they have a long wait list, then they know the product is definitely popular. But you want to click on Start Application, okay, for the business line of credit, because that's really what we're here for. And you move on to the next screen where you just input how much you need. You put the information. You put which financing type, line of credit. You have to put your first and last name. You have to put your phone number, right? Your email address, and your password. Okay, pretty straightforward. And next thing is that they want you to tell them about your business. So you put your company name, you put your address, you put your phone number, your annual revenue. Remember, the minimum was $10,000 per month, so that $120 per year. In this case, for educational purposes, we put 200,000, and you put the industry you're in, your customers. Your customers must be B2B or B2G. Remember that? That's why they're asking you here. And the entity type, we put LLC. You can't not be a sole proprietorship, and you have to put your EIN number, right? This is something important. And if we move on here, they want you to connect your bank account. As I was telling you, this is important. They're not asking you more information about your assets, liability, or your financial statements. They just want you to connect your bank account so they can check things themselves. So this is how you do it. So you click Connect Your Bank Account. So once you have that, you're gonna have the next screen where they're asking you to continue. So they use Played to connect to do the connection. So you have to click Continue. Once you click Continue, you have the next here. You will see a catalog of banks. Okay. And you pick the one where you are currently banking, the institution where you're currently banking. In our case, we picked Citibank. So you have to click one, and then you move on to the next screen here. So the system is really verifying your information. This probably takes 30 seconds. When we tested it, it took 30 seconds. And then they want you to verify your identity. So you have to put your email, and they will and you click continue. Okay, so once you have to do that, and then they will send you an email with a code. And once you have to click on that code, you have to copy that code and paste it so that you can enter. So you have to verify your email. So once you put the code and you click submit. That's it. So after connecting your business bank account, they will ask a few questions about you personally, and that's it. So you can see that really the application is very fast. Okay. So now let me give you a few pro tips, folks, to contextualize this conversation and really get close to ending it. I'm talking to you about a very generous business line of credit from Bluevine. Maximum line amount $250,000. And we're also talking about an invoice factoring arrangement, maximum amount $5 million. Okay. And if you want to increase your chances of being approved with Bluevine, you want not only to provide all the information that they ask you on the application, but you also want to get your documents in order. Because simply because everything is done electronically doesn't mean that they're not going to ask you for a paper verification. They might ask, for example, to see your tax returns for the last 3 years in paper form. For example, they might ask to see they might ask to see your articles of incorporation or articles of organization in paper form. They might ask, so so you really want to keep your documents in order. And when we speak about keeping your documents in order, we also talking about making sure your accounting records and your accounting controls, the controls over your accounting systems, are solid. Okay, because this is what's going to lend credibility to your business application. This is what's going to make Bluevine's underwriters more comfortable in the solidity of your loan application and more comfortable in the truthfulness and the integrity of the data you are providing to them. Okay. And all along, you want to work on demonstrating sufficient cash flow. You want to work on making sure that even though you might have a temporary cash problems, which is why you're asking, which is why you want to have an invoice factoring arrangement, or you want to have a line of credit, you still are positive. You still are positive in terms of income. Okay. And one thing you also need to do, please, you want to constantly stay in contact with your Bluevine loan specialist. Once they issue you the line of credit, they're going to assign to you some there'll be a staff member who will actually sort of follow through with you. You want to stay in close contact with that person. You want to ask more information because that person is going to help you. Who knows, maybe you might want to increase the line of credit from 250,000 all the way to $500,000. This is the person you should be talking to, who will understand your business and who might help you get the funds you need, the additional funds you need. Thank you so much for your attention, folks. I really appreciate it. I will speak to you another time. But today I was talking to you about a massive business line of credit from Bluevine and an invoice factoring arrangement from Bluevine. I gave you the loan facts. I give you an overview, the lender at a glance, the eligibility criteria, the use of loan proceeds, the evidence needed, how to apply, and last but not the least, I'll give you a few pro tips. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.